I have this crazy goal of getting this podcast to over 10,000 subscribers in the next 3 months. Here's how you can help. Over 96.6% of people that view this podcast are not subscribed. So if you've got even a little bit of information or inspiration from this podcast, I please ask you to subscribe. Help me help more people, and let's get into the podcast. Neil Patel, you are someone that if anyone knows anything about marketing, you were the first person I think anyone thinks of. And I'm grateful for your time. And I'd love to dive into your story that you were someone that started selling CDs at 15 years old. You got really into just entrepreneurship at such a young age. What were some of the pivotal moments in your early childhood that led you down the path to even get started so young?
I don't think there was tons of pivotal moments. It was just more so I wanted money and I was too young to get a job, a 9 to 5 job, like working at a restaurant or a theme park or wherever. That's why I started doing the little side hustles while I was in school. It's like something is better than nothing, and I couldn't figure out how to, make money doing what most people do just because of my age. And due to laws, it's not like they're gonna hire a 14, 15-year-old.
Right, right. I know your sister was one of the smartest people in California in the state. She was making like 120 bucks an hour, and you look up to it a lot. What were some of the things that you took from her that helped you, I guess, get started so early? And was that something that helped you just want to get ahead?
Kind of, yeah. So she was working for a gentleman who was an Oracle consultant. He was the one making 120 plus an hour, maybe even 200 plus an hour back then. I don't know what he was paying my sister, but it wasn't anywhere near there. But yet she was young, so she was happy with the job. And I realized that there's a lot of potential to do well and make good money. You just got to figure out how and what's in demand. And most of those things that were in demand, I didn't qualify for, but that really lit a fire under my, behind to figure it out. Because I was like, man, who wants $6, $7 an hour when I can get $50 an hour, $100 an hour, $200 an hour?
I'm right with you on that. When I was in 9 to 5 as well, and I always thought when I was working, no matter what I do, I'm getting this amount of money per hour, and it never made any kind of sense to me that people go through that their entire life, recognizing that there's no way that they can ever build any kind of leverage. Was there someone that was in your life that helped you realize that there was more to be capable of, or like, was there any kind of role model that like helped you kind of open your mind up to what could be possible?
No, but I was young, so I didn't have tons of options. See, if I started in my mid to late 20s and I went to Harvard, I did not, but let's just assume, and I graduated top of my class, and then I got a Harvard MBA, and I'm in the world of private equity, I don't know, or hedge funds, I don't know if I would have become an entrepreneur. Because even if I don't have all the control in the world, some of those jobs pay millions of dollars a year, and I wouldn't have had necessarily the desire to go do something on my own.
So when you got started, I mean, you were 16 making 10, $20,000 a month. How quick did that happen, and what did that open up in your mind? Because I can imagine going from making a few bucks an hour to making that much money per month. Your mind's probably just blown away by what is possible.
Yes, so at 15 and a half is when I really started. My first contract was I was paid hourly, but it was like 2,500, I think, or 5 grand for a certain amount of hours, and they were happy. So then they just hired me for 5,000 a month. Did really well. The owner's son had an ad agency. He gave me 3 more customers at the same pay. So then I was at 20 grand a month. So within a year period, by the time I was 16 and a half, I was making roughly 20 grand a month. A lot of it, most of it was pure profit. So for me, I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And that for me really changed my life. I didn't necessarily know 20 grand could turn into $1 million a month or even 100, 200 grand a month. I was just happy right then and there because 20 grand a month was a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what did that do to your mindset? Because I feel for so many people, we live in this place of scarcity and lack, and coming from a place where you're making a few dollars an hour, whether it's your parents or the environment that you grew up around, I assume that it could be difficult to even believe that that's possible. Even you getting to $20,000 a month opens your mind up and thinks there's so much more. Of course, you were content with it at the time, but looking back, what did that do, and how did that make you think even bigger?
Yeah, I realized I can make a lot of money on my own. So I was just like, how do I keep growing? I didn't necessarily know how. I got creative and eventually the business grew into millions of dollars a year. I also invested all the money and lost it all and invested more than I had through borrowed money. But yeah, it worked out decently well over the years. What it taught me is possibilities are endless, and keep dreaming, keep pushing. You got to get creative sometimes, but if you're willing to put in the hours, who knows what's possible.
Yeah. The thing that you said there that comes up for me is the kind of putting your back against the wall, investing more money than you have. I did that when I was 17 years old as well, and it really shifted the way that I looked at myself because I took myself way more seriously. Do you believe that for someone to step into a next level of life, you call it, um, do you think that it's a requirement, or how do you feel someone can get started even thinking bigger when they come from a scarcity mindset?
I- if you come from a scarcity mindset, it's not about, I would recommend you think about something you try to change the way you think about not looking at it as a scarcity mindset from an aspect of money. Think of it as there's a scarcity of time.
Mm,
Okay. So most people, when they have the scarcity mindset, is I'm worried, got to hoard my cash. Things may not go well. What people need to start thinking is, and when people come from the scarcity mindset, a lot of times they don't invest because they're just like, man, what happens if I lose it? They don't want to take the risk. If you believe in yourself, you've been getting traction, you should be willing to double down. But what you need to realize is there's a scarcity of time, and that never really changes. You only live on this world for so many years. Luck if you hit 100. Maybe that'll change for you and your generation. You look quite a bit younger than me. But my parents, I hope they live past 100, but the chances are not with them, right? My kids, there's a good chance they live past 100. I don't have the stats or data, but I'm pretty sure there's a good chance with all the technology and the improvement that's happening in this world. But there's still a limited amount of time. It's not like you're living to 1,000 years,
mm,
right? Um, and what you need to think of is you're limited on time. How can you grow faster? Where's it worth doubling down? How can you get more done in the limited amount of time that you have? There's nothing wrong with having the scarcity mindset, but you need to have the scarcity mindset with time, not necessarily money.
I love that. My father and uncle both passed away at 37, and so the intentionality of living for now and how limited our time is something that's always been top of mind for me. But maybe for someone, this is what comes up for me is when someone's getting started, you got really good at executing really young, and that's how you got the opportunity that you did, and you've been able to build from there. For someone that maybe doesn't know what to take action on or build or create or what industry to step into, how do you help someone focus and figure out the thing that they should step into? Because when we have all the time in the world, maybe people just don't know what to do with their time. So what do you say for that person?
It's really hard to get people to focus. That's something that most people have to figure out on their own. What I tell people is if you're doing something and it's working out well, just keep doubling down. It doesn't make sense to remove your focus from what's working until, you can figure out a better way to grow or make more money or whatever your objective is. As for what they should be doing and what they're passionate about, people have got to figure that out on their own. You should be focusing on something that's a big market. You should be focusing on what you love, because if you love it, you're more likely to do it and put in the hours and not quit. But the best way to figure those things out is you just got to try a lot of stuff. And you'll hate some things, even if it's a big market and there could be a lot of money. If you hate it, then don't do it. And what you'll find is as you do things, you'll quickly see what's working, what's not working. And a lot of times, what you're naturally good at is typically what you like more. And those are the things you should be doubling down on.
I love it. When you were, I want to say you were 16 around the same time, you were taking nighttime classes as well. And it seems like you were someone that was always trying to get ahead in some sort. Is there a character trait or a skill that you, looking back, noticed that you developed that helped you get ahead? Because I feel for many people, even 15, 16, even older than that, they're just not trying to get ahead.
No, they're not trying to get ahead. What we found, or what I found, is I wasn't necessarily trying to get ahead. I was trying to hack the system and to get my end result faster.
Mm,
So it wasn't about how do I get ahead of all the other people in my age group. It was how can I hit my goals faster, and what do I need to do to get there? And don't worry about comparing yourself to others because there's always going to be someone smarter, richer, has a better idea, taller, better looking, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. You're going to lose either way. And even if you're like the fastest person in the world when you run, 10 years from now, there'll be someone faster. Be the best looking model of, the year. There'll be a new, better looking model 10 years from now when you age, right? Like you're never going to win and you're never going to win forever. What you got to do is just be a better version of yourself. And I was trying to accomplish my goals quicker. So I was looking for solutions and quote unquote hacks to get there faster.
Yeah, the mindset of legacy, that's a big reason I haven't really attached myself to it, because you're right. Like no matter what happens 20 years from now, someone's going to be way further along than you are, just because that's how evolution works. So it's just going to work that way. Talking about goals, you said that. How do you go about setting goals and figuring out what that North Star is to move towards?
Yeah. The way I look at goals is what do I think I can achieve? What do I want to achieve? Try to figure out what's realistic. And then you then backtrack and you say, okay, if I want to achieve this year, what do I need to do each month? What do I need to do each week? What do I need to do each day to actually achieve that? And then you'll get an understanding if you think it's realistic.
With something that I've heard you say a lot is that you used to struggle with focus. That was one thing that you wish you
Uh-huh.
developed a little bit earlier on. When did you develop focus, and and how did you develop it over time?
I got really good at focus 3, 4 years ago, I would say. My early to mid 20s, I mean, my early to mid 30s. And the way I developed is I found something that was a big enough TAM. I was passionate about it, and I'm like, let's just go all in. Right now, okay, we're doing this interview early Jan 19, 2024. I'm in the process of selling few of my homes because you only need one home to really live in. And I'm gonna go take the surplus cash from it, they're paid off, and I'm gonna go put the money into buying up some of my competitors. Like, go for it, Doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least I tried. It's like have the laser focus, go all in when you really believe it, and just keep pushing.
Yeah, you speaking about TAM makes me think of, I think a common quote that we hear all the time is that riches are in the niches, right? And I know that you don't really agree with that, right? The bigger the market, the more upside is what you
Yes.
say often. When is it too early to start niching down, or how do you think about that? Because I think a lot of people think that they need to be so specific.
I don't like niching down at all. I just avoid niching down, period. I try to go after big TAMs from day one.
Do you ever find that you're not able to connect with people through a lens? Like if someone's getting started in a business and they don't know exactly who to target, how are they able to speak to one person when they're speaking to a bunch of people?
Well, you should know who to target,
Of
right?
course.
Because just because you have a big TAM doesn't mean your customer is everyone. For
Mm,
example, Salesforce is known for their CRM solutions. Yeah, they own Slack and other things, but they're really known for their CRM solution. Their buyer is not everyone. They're not
mm,
going to target someone with a 2-person company. They're going to target people with, that have 1,000 employees, 500 employees, 20,000 employees, 100,000 employees, etc. The point I'm getting at is you'll quickly know who your ideal customer is, and that's who you should target. Just because you have a massive TAM doesn't mean that you should be targeting everyone.
mm. So for someone that's getting started in business, and as you said earlier, they have to figure out what feels in alignment with them to lean into, because that's going to be the thing that is most exciting for them. What's something that you wish you knew looking back on? We talked a little bit about focus, but what's something that you wish you knew in the beginning that would have helped you scale a lot quicker and proceed and achieve your goals?
Hire people who have done it before in my industry. That would have helped me out a lot. And when I say hire people who have done it before within your industry, don't just interview people and be like, oh, yeah, you did this. I'll be successful if you work for me. You got to really verify. And the way you verify is you make sure that they continually got promoted at their previous positions.
Mhm.
If they didn't get promoted, what happens? It means that they say they're valuable, but the company probably didn't think they were. But if someone got promoted 3, 4 times, the company probably thought they were valuable and they probably did produce. So someone worked for your competition, did what you're trying to achieve, and they got promoted multiple times. They worked for a few of your competitors and they got promoted at all those places. Chances are they're good and they can help you solve your problems.
I've heard you say that a few times, and it makes a lot of sense, right? And for someone getting started, they're not. I don't even think many people are even thinking about hiring. They're thinking about how do I do this myself. And One thing that your mom has said to you that has resonated with me is that don't have your head in the clouds.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say that a few times. And when you were younger, you had an ego, and then as you got older, it kind of like dissipated. How have you stayed grounded as you've scaled and created just multiple massive businesses?
My uncle said this the best. When things are going well for you, there's
Mhm.
always other people who have it better than you. When things are going bad for you, there's always people who have it much worse than you. Like, you live in a place right now that has really terrible weather right now in New York. There's people who don't even have shelter. You have electricity, you have shelter. There's people who don't have food or even clean water. In the grand scheme of things, we both got it pretty good if you look at it from that perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Gap and the Gain is a book that I recommend to a lot of people, where a lot of people compare themselves off of where they want to be rather than where they used to be. And the same thing goes for gratitude. Like, think of what you have instead of what you don't have, because that's what you're going to bring more into your life. One thing
Dude,
that
have you seen that
Good.
Instagram video clip of people asking young kids, what do you want? Like, if you have
I
anything
don't
in the
think so.
world, what do you want?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the young kids in the US are like, I want $1 million. And one kid's like, I
Mhm.
want $1 zillion, and they're pretty much talking about how they want to be like rich and big cars, or I mean, big homes and fancy sports cars like Lamborghinis and stuff. And then they ask the same question to people in some of these third world countries. And some of them are saying, I just want food. I want water. I want to be able to go to a school. Some of
Mhm.
them are saying, I wish my brother was alive again because some of them died from wars and stuff like that. Like what other people are wanting, in some of these other countries is kind of crazy. It puts life into perspective.
It absolutely does. One thing that I've heard you say a few times was that making money is like scoring points in a basketball game. So,
Uh-huh.
doubling down on that, the gratitude aspect of things, how are you able to, as you scale and continuously trying to score more points, as you'd say, how are you able to be present where you are while also trying to get to where you'd like to go?
Yeah, I think it's a team effort. So if you have people who are focusing on different things within an organization, they'll know where you are, they'll help you stay on track. And like for me, I focus on strategy where we want to go, and then the team focuses on where we're at and what we need to do to get there. And a lot of times they'll checkmate me and, take me back down to reality. Like I told the team I want to acquire 10 businesses this year. And they're like, Neil, the costs and the time to acquire 10 businesses and integrate them is just going to be ridiculously high and it's going to be hard. And I was like, oh, we can do it. They're like, five, maybe six, maybe. But they're like, 10 is going to be really tough. They're like, just be patient.
The thought of thinking about 10 businesses, right, is you have such a I think a lot of people have this idea of delusional optimism to the point where they think that they can almost do almost anything, and that's where the people that succeed so much is because they have such a belief that it is possible more than they can even imagine. When you were 21, you got into $1 million of debt. When that was going on, was there any fear, or how did you be able to think your way out of that? Obviously, you took a lot of action, but how were you able to even think of how far you had to go, if that makes sense?
I didn't think about it. I just focused on what I needed to do to make money, and that was it. Um, I was stressed out about it, but when I say I didn't think about it, as I stopped thinking about what I need to do to survive, to pay back the debt. I was like, I just need to focus on making money because if you make enough money, it solves all problems. So I try not to worry about the debt.
And when you were 16, from 16 to 23, you just kept reinvesting your money. And at 23, it was the time when you finally took a salary. How were you able to, and what were some of the people that helped you take on that mindset to continue to reinvest? Or was that just something that you felt like it just was going to end up making sense for you? Like, how were you able to have that mindset?
I needed to take a salary. You got bills and stuff eventually, right? Eventually, you got to
Mhm.
move out of your parents' house, which I recommend people live with their parents as long as possible. Um, one of my buddies is 38 and he wants to get out of his parents' house. I was like, why? It's free. They said they're going to give you their home. Take it. There's nothing wrong with it. Uh, it's better to save your money than pay on rent. He's not married either. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just like, live with your parents as long as possible. They do your laundry, they cook for you. Like, life's pretty good. You want to go have fun, go travel, do whatever you want. Save your money when you can. And yeah, just in general, I look at things as like, try not to burden yourself with expenses, but eventually you do need a salary. you do need to grow up, and you may have a family and kids one day, and all these things cost money, so you can't always reinvest everything.
Do you think there's any value in just using the example of leaving home, moving out of your house and putting yourself in a position to force yourself almost to make the money that you want to make? Maybe, do you think there's any value in that?
No, it's for some people it can motivate them, but you should figure out how to get the motivation without having to do that.
Mm. What does that look like from your experience?
I don't know. I think if you really love what you're doing, you'll have the motivation either way, but it's hard for every person to just have the motivation. And if that was the case, we'd all be entrepreneurs and most people want to be working for companies. But that's not the reality we're in, right? I just think some people won't have it no matter what you do.
Mm,
It's not always solvable, right? Like you got a good head on your shoulders. I know you have a positive attitude. If you didn't, you wouldn't have the light sitting behind you that says you can too, right? It's pretty much motivating you, saying you can do anything you want to. If other people can, why can't you? But not everyone has that mindset. And it's actually healthy that not everyone has that mindset, because then you wouldn't have workers in this world, and you need workers. These companies are not built by Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. They're built by all the team members. And they would all admit it that without their team, they would not be where they are today. Doesn't matter how smart you are, you need the team.
of course. I think of one thing that I've seen is a common thread for your journey is that timing was a big part of the you getting into everything that you're doing. I think as in anything that anyone gets into, timing has to play a role, and the persistence to be able to continue and take on more clients when you were younger. But something I often think of is what are some of the less obvious reasons you think back, right? The dots never connect forward, but they always do backward. What were some of the less obvious reasons that you were able to find success?
Yeah, some of the less obvious reasons um, I was able to find success is I ended up just learning from my failures and try to avoid making the same one over and over again, because eventually you'll just start doing the right things. The next thing that really helped me was I was asking the right people for advice, who was in my space that struggled where, just like I am, and what did they do to come out of it. I wouldn't ask a random rich person. I'd ask someone in my space, because then the feedback was more useful. But those are two things that really helped me overcome a lot of issues over the years.
What were some of the mistakes that you found yourself repeating, or even clients that you've worked with over time? What do you find mistakes that are common?
Hiring the wrong people, just hiring people based off their pedigree versus their experience in working in the market. The other mistake was lack of focus. I made that one too many times. Another mistake was going into businesses that were too small TAMs. You need really big TAMs. It's easier to make money when you do that. But those are some of the mistakes that I made over the years.
Talking about the book that you wrote, Hustle. There's money, meaning, and momentum, a part of the book, and you speaking on everything that you spoke on. I think that a lot of people miss out on meaning when it comes to work, and you saying there when it comes to focus and knowing what to focus on. How do you determine what to focus on, especially that in the position that you're in now? I bet there's a bunch of different things, investments that you can make when you sell your homes. Like, how do you know what to lean into?
I base it off of passion. I base it off opportunity. And, I also base it off of risk. Like I can control investing in my own business and buying up competitors. If I invested in stocks, I control those companies pretty much not one bit. I'm just writing a check and, baking on someone else. I like betting on myself. I'm not saying betting on myself is a better investment, but that's what I choose because I like it. Um, and you'll figure it out over time because you'll know what's right for you.
When you think of investing in yourself, I feel like a lot of people hear that word or that sentence and phrase and think, I don't know what to invest to when I hear invest into yourself. Is there a thought process that you work through when you think of determining what to invest into when you're thinking of investing in yourself, or maybe even thinking of someone starting that hasn't invested into themselves ever?
Well, if you're just starting, the first thing to invest in is your knowledge. What
Mhm.
more can you learn? Try to read, go to events, conferences, and networking events, whatever they may be. Watch YouTube videos. Invest in yourself by just through education. Doesn't have to cost money. For example, if you're going to a conference, sorry about that, just came back from a trip, so a little bit jet
You're
lag.
good.
But if you ended up wanting to go to an event and you don't have money to pay for that conference, volunteer. they'll let you attend sessions while you volunteer, and then boom, you got a free ticket. The next thing that you can do is, if you have money and trying to figure out what to invest in, figure out where the biggest growth opportunities are, and that'll show you where to put your money.
Talking about opportunities, building brands is something that you've done extremely well. And I think something that seems as though you're excited about. And I think I'm definitely excited about it, whether it's through the podcast or other social medias. For someone that's learning or wanting to get into building a brand or creating some kind of opportunity online, what are some of the things that you're noticing and opportunities that they can lean into?
Sure. Opportunities right now that I'm seeing online is podcasting is a huge one, like what you're doing right here. There's not that many podcasts. There's way too many blogs. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have a blog, but I think podcasting is a big open ocean. Another big opportunity is creating short form content. Not enough people are doing it. I know you see it everywhere, but like you're getting people doing dance videos. But when I say not enough people, I'm talking about companies. Like
Mhm.
large corporations aren't creating short form videos that can help them drive sales. I don't know why. They should. Another huge opportunity online is influencer marketing, playing relevant influencers within your space to promote your product. We're finding that's produced a much higher ROI than just ads. But those are some of the things that are massive opportunities right now.
When you say that there isn't many people podcasting or creating short form content, automatically I can think of 1,000 people that I can think of that are stepping into this space. Why do you think it's still early?
It is. The numbers show it. Like what? There's roughly 4 million plus podcasts. There's over a billion blogs. Just think in
Yeah.
comparison. Short form content, yeah, everyone's creating it, but how many companies are actually creating it to promote their products and services? People who are creating short form content are usually doing it for entertainment. They're not doing it to help build their business.
When you think of it still being early, what are some of the things that you've been able to implement within your own business that have helped you stand out? Of course, you have all of the evidence in the world to reinforce why you are someone that can put themselves in a position to talk about the things you talk about. But for someone that's getting started that doesn't really know how to position themselves in such a way, what do you think that they can do?
So you're saying, how should someone position themselves in today's world?
Even just creating the opportunity to be able to, whether it's a podcast or short form content, you have all the evidence in the world for why you're able to talk about the things that you talk about. But maybe for someone that doesn't have the evidence, that they just want to get started, but they don't really know where to start. If that makes sense.
Interview other people, like what you're doing. You can do your own research so you have stuff to talk about. Just cite your sources. You don't need your own data. You can go and use other people's data and cite them and talk about what their data shows and why and what you need to do based off of it.
Yeah. The book that you wrote, Hustle, I want to circle back to that because it's something that I think the three M's that are in it is money, meaning, and momentum. From your experience of even working with clients or even yourself, what do you find is the one thing that people miss out on the most or don't prioritize enough?
Yes, a little bit different. And the reason being is most of the companies we work with are large enterprise
Of course.
corporations like Fortune 1000 or Global 1000. So it's a little bit different than if it was a startup. Uh, but if I had to look at startups, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of them making is they're not doubling down on what's working. For example, if you're selling this protein powder and you sell it in the United States and you're seeing that people in Canada are starting to buy it, maybe you should consider expanding to Canada because you're getting Canada buyers when you're not targeting them, right? And then if you're getting UK people to buy it and you're not targeting them, and your currency for the product is in dollars instead of pounds, and they're paying arm and leg to get it shipped over there, you may want to consider expanding to the UK as well, right? That's what I mean, and what I'm saying, like people just aren't doubling down on the opportunities that are present.
Mm. You are I've seen a little bit about you with when you're disciplined. You don't drink caffeine. And you don't end your days without going through all your emails and all the priorities done and everything else. What are some of the foundational key habits that you, other than that, that you can continue to implement in your days that allow you to just get, I would say, get more done than most people, but you get ahead in such a way that I think a lot of people admire.
Also, don't drink alcohol. I try to eat healthy. I work out at almost once a day. Some days I miss, but I work out almost once a day for roughly 45 minutes to an hour as well. I wake up early. I get a ton done in the morning. So, but those are some of the habits that's helped me throughout the years.
And you being in SEO and marketing for a few decades, as you said earlier, for people that want to get into something that they don't really know what to step into, try a bunch of stuff, throw shit at the wall and figure out what sticks. How have you been able to keep it exciting for yourself?
You keep it exciting when you love what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, it's not exciting. But if you love what you're doing, you shouldn't have an issue. That's why I think passion is super important.
Mm. Something that I see within you is a lot of persistence in such a way that you're always leveling up. When is enough for you? Have you defined that?
I have defined it, but it keeps changing. I keep changing the goalposts because it's never enough. My wife says it best. I don't think I'm the guy who's going to ever retire or stop or slow down.
How can people almost take on that mindset for themselves in such a way that it isn't unhealthy, if that makes sense? Because I feel when people are always pushing the goalposts further along, they're never satisfied with themselves. So almost how has your relationship with yourself shifted as you've scaled and continue to move the goalpost?
I never realized what I could do. That's a big thing that's changed. Having more confidence in yourself, knowing that you can do more. Um, it's kind of crazy to see the journey over the years.
What do you think has led to that confidence? Of course, other than the results that you've got, it makes sense that you have the confidence. But for someone that's getting started,
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to if you don't have the results, as you just start doing things that you never thought you could have, you'll start getting the confidence and you'll start getting more and more results. But for me, it's just like if you look back 10, 20 years and see what you accomplish, and if you map it out, it's kind of crazy to think about. If you look at it at small points, like, oh, what I accomplished this year, it doesn't look like much. But if you just look at it from a long time horizon, people are really shocked. Bill Gates used to say, and I'm butchering the quote, people underestimate what they can get done in a year or two, or people overestimate what they can get done in the next few years, but they underestimate what they can get done in like the next 10 years. It was a quote, something like that. And I think it's spot on. Most people don't think about 10, 20 years from now. They just think in the next few years.
so do you set goals for 10 years and a year, or how does that goal process look like for you?
I don't really set goals. I just try to do whatever to grow as fast as possible, and I have fun doing it.
How do you know what to go towards if you don't set goals?
I just know what I want. I want bigger company, more employees, more revenue, more profit. So I just try to figure out how to get there. And my mind doesn't really work where it's like I have these goals. It's just I have to win. And I will try to do whatever to win as long as it's ethical and legal.
Mm. What do you know what winning looks like for you? Like and I'll ask this in the sense of as you said a minute ago, like if you are getting results, the confidence is going to come, right? But for someone that maybe is in a position where they're taking all the action that they feel that they can, but the results aren't there, do you have a reflection process, or is there anything that you go through to help you kind of move forward and figure out what's not working, what is?
No, I have a team, or you could have advisors or mentors or whatever you want to calling it. And I like bouncing things off of them. And that can give you an idea of what's working, what's not, where you're struggling, where you may need help.
I love it. There's one last question I ask every guest, and it encapsulates what I want to do with this podcast. My question to you is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
What belief am I trying to learn, or what's my belief on learning?
What belief are you unlearning?
So, like, what do I think about learning?
Now, what are you thinking of? So, as we spoke about earlier, a lot of the confidence that you've built has come from showing yourself that more is possible. So, a belief that I'm unlearning is that there's so much more I'm capable of, so much more that this world is capable of, essentially. So, like, what is something that you're trying to let go of that will allow you to open up more for yourself in your future, essentially?
One big thing that I'm all about is you don't know everything.
Mm.
And there's so many different ways to slice and dice a problem, and your way is not always the right way. So you got to be open to trying it other people's way as well. And that is helping me scale more because I can't do everything. And you got to let your team do things their way, even if you think your way may be better. If their way accomplishes, uh, the same goal or solves the same thing, but it's just done in a different way, there may not be anything wrong with that.
Been a lot of growing pains throughout that.
Definitely, because at first I would try to get everyone to do it my way, and I'm like, my way is not necessarily the best way.
How do you stay open with that?
you learn to, because if you don't, people will quit on you and you won't have a team. You don't really have a choice.
I love it. All of your links and everything will, of course, be in the show notes, but is there anywhere you'd like to direct people?
My ad agency, NP Digital.
I love it. Thank you, Neil.
Take care. Thanks for the time.